Hi, this is Kevin Deal from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about the MoFi SourcePoint 888 loudspeaker. Oh man, okay, so here's the dealio, and I'm just going to tell you the way it is. We just got in our first pairs. I said, get them in the sound room. And I went over there, we were running it, because I got to understand this. We were running it with a Prima Luna with 36 watts. And it sounded unbelievable. And I go, shit, okay. Well, I got to get Andrew Jones out here to do a video. But then I thought about it. I go, I cannot wait to schedule that because I got to tell people about this speaker. So guess who is here with us today? Andrew Jones. Say hi.
Hi, guys.
Now, I think most everybody knows who Andrew Jones is. But, Andrew, maybe you can just give them a quick synopsis of what you've done because you got quite the career, right?
A long enough career that there isn't a quick synopsis since I've been doing it 50 years now.
Yeah. We were waxing poetic about some old stuff, weren't we?
We were. I was showing old Quad Electrostatics, the first hi-fi speaker I heard over during the show last weekend. But no, I've been KEF, Infinity, Pioneer, TAD, ELAC, and now MoFi. And 888 is my latest big baby.
Yeah, and it is a big baby because, okay, I got to say something to you. I wanted to get the speaker a little closer to me, so I told my video guy, Andrew, I go, yeah, we got to move it over a little bit. And he came to move it over, but he was having a tough time wrestling it closer to me. And I'm like, oh, I'll give you a hand, but I didn't understand why he was having such a problem with it. How much does this thing weigh?
About 97 pounds each.
Oh my God. That is unbelievable because these speakers are $49.99 for a pair. And I'm just going to, okay, look, if it's okay with you, I just want you to kind of go through how you achieved this. Should we start up at the top?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, all right.
I mean, that makes sense because 888 is clearly a development of the SourcePoint 8. And I've done two stand mount speakers now, SourcePoint 10 and then a smaller version with SourcePoint 8. But now we're going back up big to do a floor stander. And what do we do with it? So I took the exact driver from the SourcePoint 8, which is used as a full range sort of two-way concentric driver in the 8, and I use it just as the mid-range tweeter concentric in the 888. So I put that within that cabinet. It's sectioned in so many different ways to both get the performance I want and to get the rigidity I want from the cabinet. But there's a separate enclosure behind the 8-inch concentric that allows it to be now a mid-range unit, so you don't get any movement from it. And then I supplement that with two dedicated 8-inch bass drivers.
If you notice, I'm going to tap on the bass drivers, and there's no movement from the mid-range driver because it is in its own sealed sub-enclosure, right?
Everything's in its own enclosures, and I did that deliberately for the bass, even though the bass drivers could theoretically share a common volume between themselves. By splitting it up, it avoids the vertical standing ways that could cause an issue. When you try and damp them out, you can drop the efficiency of the vent. It's very not straightforward to do. So it's divided up in a quite complex way, different chambers coupling to different other chambers. And that allows for a lot of cross bracing of the cabinet. So even though the cabinet walls are 3/4 inch thick, they've still got all this bracing that makes them very stiff. And of course, that front panel, same as on the SourcePoint 8, it's 1.5 inch thick front baffle. So
okay, so they spent the money on the front baffle because that's critical, isn't it?
well, with the sculpting, it helps considerably in reducing diffraction effects and smoothing out the response. Yes.
Yeah, so diffraction is, and that bugs the snot out of me. It bugs a lot of people, but they don't even know why. But imagine cupping your hands around your mouth. It's an interaction with the surface, right?
Yes, it radiates across the surface and diffracts from the edges. So the more you can smooth that out, the better. With
Right.
TAD, I used to curve it backwards, but with this, we chose the faceted design to bring it kind of a bit cross between modern and retro, and it gives it a nice look to it.
Yeah.
But it's functional. It's derived from a functional need primarily.
So the mid-range driver up on top is really relieved of doing, where is it crossed over at?
130 hertz.
Boom.
Quite a considerable full range. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that when you're trying to produce bass, for every octave you go down to maintain the sound pressure, you need 4 times the movement. So instead of the speaker going down to just below, let's say 45 hertz, by the time I get up to, if it was 180 hertz, it would be a quarter of the movement needed. And so that saves considerably on excursion and makes it a dedicated mid-range, improves its performance as a concentric driver, and then lets the bass drivers do their work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to develop special new drivers for this application.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought back to my days at TAD and how all the bass drivers were short coil, long gap, so-called underhung. And that's a much more linear structure for driving the voice coil than if you have long coil, short gap. Because long coil,
Mm-hmm.
short gap, it's flat-ish, but never flat in terms of its force versus distance profile. Whereas underhung, within the limits of staying within the gap, the coil always moves linearly. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd do that, but try and get it affordable. And did that by using 2 strong neodymium magnets, one on top of the pole piece, one at the bottom. So it drives it from both ends and helps further linearize it.
Right. So there's 2 magnets, one at the front of the voice coil, one at the rear of it, right? Yeah. Yep. Better control, more linear control. That just means it's going to be flat, especially when you're going into deeper excursion. It's going to be able to handle that with less distortion, right?
Of course, I would say so, but it is remarkably dynamic in the bass and just punches really well.
Yeah. Righto. Righto.
Especially with the
Okay.
power I
So.
put into it. You're putting the Prima Luna on it. I'm putting a 400 watt per channel 400 watts per channel 8 ohms, 700 per channel 4 ohms, and it's in my room. It's just, I'm going crazy with it, just playing so loud.
Well, and the thing is, like, I just wanted to see what it will work with, and we're going to be hooking it up to bigger amps. The thing, we just got them, and we're breaking them in, and I was like, what the F is this about? And that's why I'm supposed to be doing something else right now, but I said, drag it over here and see if we can get you on the phone. Oh my God. All right, 100.
Talking of driving it with lower impedance or lower power amps, especially tube amplifiers, I put
Mm-hmm.
in some extra circuitry in the crossover to linearize the impedance, and so it's much more stable versus different types of amplifiers than even the
Oh.
SourcePoint 8. So it's a nice easy impedance. It's a minimum of 4.5 ohms and nominal impedance of 6 ohms, but throughout above a couple of hundred hertz, it's just pretty flat. So it makes it very insensitive to choice of amplifier.
All right. Is that like a Zobel network? Is that what they
Yeah,
call that? I
yeah.
thought, okay, right on. Yeah, and that's super helpful. And it was amazing. I'm still trying to decide which speaker tap sounds best. And I got to say something for you guys out there. If you have a tube amp, I don't know what you have at home, and if you decide to get any speaker, you need to experiment with whatever speaker taps you have and use the one that sounds best. Use your ears. It's important to get that marriage. Hell yeah. Now they're 87 dB efficient, you said, and that kind of surprises me because they seem to be higher than that, to me anyway.
They're the same sensitivity as the SourcePoint 8, and the SourcePoint 8 was a slightly higher impedance level, but you're always fighting between sensitivity and box size and bass extension. And since I wanted this to have really good extended bass, it's essentially I'm building passive subwoofers into the speaker. but I'm doing the blending between the subwoofer and the satellite part, essentially. With subwoofers, as speaker designers, we kind of go, you have a go. You see how difficult it is. Here it's done for you. So the vents are tuned at 32 hertz. It's -6 anechoic at 32 hertz. But certainly in my room, I don't quote figures based on in-room response because that's sort of cheating. Because what room? But I know I get a solid 20 hertz out of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, you put on some music. I've got a few tracks that I've been using for demo recently. One of the Chesky records, for example. And that's got a 30 hertz note that comes through and it just sails through. And it's
Right
wonderful
on.
when you can experience that.
Right on. Yeah, so these two woofers give you the cone area of what?
Well, if you think of in terms of equivalent of a subwoofer, then
Mm-hmm.
4.8 is equivalent to somewhere between a 12 and a 15-inch woofer. So imagine that capability.
Yeah.
Well, it's built into this pair of speakers.
And it's very, very fast. It's fast. Yeah, I was really, really surprised by that. Okay, now they come in this walnut, right? It's real wood veneer. I'm sorry. Uh-huh.
And so the satin walnut and also a black ash. It's
Mm-hmm.
real ash that's then painted to the black finish.
Mm-hmm.
There is a version that certainly sells in Europe. I don't know whether we do it here, similar to what we did with the SourcePoint 8, but there's a satin white version.
I'm gonna not try to not knock you over. Okay, I'm gonna put the grill on now. It's a magnetic grill, everybody, and it just pops on like that. It's a nice grill. Yeah, you did a good job. Now it's bi-wireable, correct?
It is bi-wireable, bi-ampable, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried it by amp? Or how do you feel about that?
I actually did because when I first started playing, I have one of the Hi-Fi Rose amplifiers, the 150. So that has 4 channels of amplification. So you can have it just use a pair of amplifiers to get 200 watts per side, or you can use 2 amplifiers per side, either as by amplification or as bridged mode. Now, the thing is, when you do bi-amplification, you don't have the ability to play much louder at all. It all depends on what the power supply is. And with fully regulated power supplies, you won't really experience any higher sound pressure level. Not significantly, a minor amount. Put them into bridge mode, and then you've got a lot more power. So I think that amplifier would give 400 watts into 8 ohms, 4 ohms, whichever. And so when I switched over to bridge mode, I could really play very loud with these speakers, really rock it. But even with that, I never pushed the woofers to the limits, but the amplifier would every so often go, sorry, I'm done, I'm out of here. And it would just shut down and ask you to reset. So now I've got some old Class A amplifiers that I've had for years, mono blocks, which can give 700 watts into 4 ohms, and those just rock. Those I was finally able to get the woofers to hit their end stops. That is loud, very loud.
Oh, that is so cool. All right. Well, I think we about covered everything. And I want to thank you for returning my call and my text and being so gracious. I mean, on the spot like this. I didn't know what you were doing. Everyone's recovering from the show. I'm tired. I don't even want to work today, but I went into the sound room and I was just energized. I said, what the hell? So look, I want to thank Andrew Jones. I want to thank you for watching. Contact our non-commissioned salespeople. No stress. We'll play them for you. Have fun. If you buy them and you don't like them, you can return them. We have a no return. We have a return policy that's really easy. I mean, you guys know how we work. We want to be a high service place and make sure you're happy. At Upscale Audio, we're going to treat your system like it's ours. Say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.